Monday noon, the time is here. Shane and I'll be loud and clear. Pacific vibes, we bring the heat. AI agents can't be beat. AI agents out, let's go. News and guests, the big show. Solving problems, we do it live. Stay informed, it's a vibe. Building agents that work for you. Making moves, we see it through. Every week, a brand new show. Tag along and watch your knowledge grow. AI agents out, let's go. News and guests, the big show. Answering questions, we arrive. Every Monday, come alive. We want reviews, but only if it's a 5. We share the drama, we got the drive. Stay in the loop, it's the place to be. Shane and I'll be setting you free. AI agents out, we're here to stay. Tune in Mondays, make your day. From the news to the problem solved. AI world, get
Hello, everyone, and welcome to AI Agents Hour. Thank you for spending some of your Mondays with the Mastras. I'm Shane. This is Abby.
What's up, dude?
What's up? And we have a great show today. We're going to be talking about skills. It's the new hype. We're going to be talking to all the AI news, talking about prompt caching, compression. We have a guest from Morning Brew coming on later. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah, dude, and that intro song got me pumped.
I know it's hard not to be jazzed and like ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree. And a lot of people, a lot of comments on the intro, so far. It's only been this is the second week. We did unveil it last week when you weren't here.
Oh, no wonder I hadn't heard it before.
Yeah,
Dude,
so
it
we
was
unveiled
dope.
it last week. But it seems to resonate, so if you are tuning in, what do you think of the intro song? If you are listening to this later, or you check it out. We'll maybe share it. Yeah, you feeling better, dude?
Yep, all good, all better. It's been crazy rainy here in SF. We have Waymageddon on Saturday. So for those who aren't in SF, what happened on Saturday was pretty crazy. All these there was a big power outage, pretty much impacted like a huge percentage of the city. And one by one, these Waymos just started running out of juice, and also streetlights were not working. So there's just a bunch of confusion in the self-driving cars. They were stuck in the middle of the street. They were blocking. Some are just not active at all. So there's just a lot of congestion in the city. I got stuck in a freaking tunnel. It was great.
Yeah. I was not in SF. I just saw all the posts online about pictures of Waymos just bricked in the streets.
Yep, they were all bricked, dude. And not all of the city was impacted. Like, I guess the dog patch was chill. It was just like that. I guess the west side of the city. Oh man, and it was like crazy traffic everywhere.
Sujay, hey,
Hello.
Thanks for tuning in. So yeah, we have a lot of things we're going to cover. After last week, you were out. The next day, I was sick. So whatever we got the week before. So feeling better now. I do blame. If Allie, if you're watching, you said you had the flu earlier in the week and you were better. I don't know. I'm questioning.
Someone needs to pay for this. Okay.
Yeah, I'm questioning because we both got sick right after hanging out. But anyways, so I got a Christmas gift for you, dude.
Okay, what is it?
All right. So and this is maybe a Christmas gift to everyone watching, is that we are going to have a producer for the show.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So typically that producer's mostly me, and you sprinkle in and bring in some guests sometimes. And for anyone watching, you may have seen, sometimes we're unorganized and we last minute on things. Sometimes we start a few minutes late. So we kind of need someone to wrangle us in a little bit. And what does that mean? Well, it's going to help get on bigger name guests than, we can do on our own. Honestly, it's not even about getting on bigger name guests. It's just about being more organized around the guests we do get
Yeah.
on. We get on great guests already. It's just we're not always the most organized and don't plan ahead enough. So it's like having a good process, getting some new equipment. You're going to be seeing
Yep.
some new, better audio, some better live stream assets. We're probably going to be moving to a new streaming platform at some point, Abby. So heads up that that's coming. But it
Cool.
should, for the most part, you probably won't notice any wild differences week to week, but hopefully it'll keep getting better throughout the new year. So yeah, just a little housekeeping for you all that the show is going to continue to improve.
I'm stoked. That's a good gift.
Yeah. And
You know,
Brad's
the top
listening in.
20%. So only the best for the top 20% podcast. On
Yeah.
Spotify.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they said the top 20% podcast on Spotify, I guess we need to step it up. How do we get top 10 next year? Let's get to top 10.
That's the guys at OKRs. Our producers OKRs get us to the top 10%.
Yeah, that's it. So we got to talk about this agent skills thing.
Yep.
That's
Dude, it blew
that's
up.
all I heard about last week, and it's obviously we've been Claude Anthropic has had skills for a while, and we've been tracking it, we've been playing around with it, but now it seems like all at once it's now very important to everybody.
Yeah, it's because last week they released the standards website for it, right? So it's a specification on skills, agent skills. So I guess we can start with what are they, and how does it differ from other things. So I think oftentimes the best use case is in coding agents, and right now coding agents, for example, you have slash commands or the command directory for if it's Claude, it's .claude, open code, etc. And within them, you are writing markdown prompts, which is, I guess, like the first level of the skill, and you're just essentially reusing them. Now, this is now more formal because, for example, I just mentioned .claude, there's .cursor, there's .opencode, there's .etc. codex, all that have their own command formats. Well, now we have a spec, and you'll be able to set essentially these command directories. What is a skill, though? Skills have a lot of different components. At the very base level, it's just markdown file with a bunch of stuff in it that you would already pre-prompt an LLM. But where it gets really interesting is you can add references. So references are like documentation that is for that particular skill that is going to be run. So you could add docs in there or any other context. You can have assets like images or files that are templates, etc. And then the coolest thing, I think, which I have not seen well in practice yet, is you could add scripts, which are just arbitrary things that can be run if this skill is invoked. So it's a way different concept than MCP. It's essentially like tool calling, but it's just another way forward. It seems very biased to coding agents. What do you think?
Yeah, it does seem like it was mainly targeted at how do we make coding agents better. But I think like anything else, that was the intention. I think people have been seeing that you can maybe do more with it. And so that's why it's becoming more and more popular, is I think it's going to branch out of just coding agents. I do feel like this is like skills is MCP moment in some ways. I do think we're going to keep hearing about it. And yeah, honestly, this is my hot take. I have no inside knowledge of this, but my hot take is maybe Anthropic learned some things with MCP. They kind of handed off MCP to this new foundation. It's still going to be supported. I think it's still going to be important. I think agent skills don't solve the exact same things, but there's definitely going to be a lot of overlap, and it's going to be hard to decide, should it be a skill or just an MCP server with some tools? But maybe Anthropic's decided that this was like another swing at the bat to make it even better, more specifically towards making Claude Code better. And then, of course, I think it'll expand beyond there because people also use Claude Code for more than just coding. It's just kind of like a computer execution agent. It can do anything on your computer. So it's not just for writing code. And I think skills will eventually evolve beyond that. And also, skills is a better name than MCP in my opinion. So I think it's going to resonate because I always picture like what are skills? It's like if you watch The Matrix and Neo just like
Yeah.
injects. He's like, now I know kung fu. It's like they just like load skills into Neo's brain. That's kind of what I think of skills. It's like, oh, you can teach your agent kung fu with a skill, or
Yeah.
you could teach your agent how to write really good Tailwind code with a skill. Of course, you can use MCP for that, and like an MCP doc servers are popular. But I do think we'll start seeing you be able to kind of hand off very specific skills that can do certain things to your agent, and your agent will just now, quote unquote, learn how to do that because they can kind of self-discover through these markdown files and these scripts of how to actually do that specific skill.
In some ways, a skill is better than an MCP tool because with tool calls, you have a limit on the description of a tool description. But you can imagine in this world that the description of the tool and how to use it is in the skill.md file. The execution of some stuff could be in scripts, and then any basic context on how to use this skill would be in references. And so you would maybe have more reliability in that type of integration. But on the other hand, you have to then worry about executing scripts in a very safe way. You had to have to, you're either in a sandbox or however you want to do it. There is some sense of bundling. I can smell the bundling in the future that you'll have to do. If you want to do this in production, you'll have to bundle the JavaScript or have a execution at like runtime, aka sandbox maybe for this. So it's going to open up like a whole new thing. How do you authenticate things that are running in the scripts? So yeah, we're gonna have a nice 2026 probably with skills.
Yeah, and for those that don't understand that, so think if you have a script, right? If you're running a basic, just simple JavaScript function with no dependencies, everything's chill.
Yeah.
But how likely is that? Or are you going to have to like load in some other dependencies that do some different things? And then you got to figure out like how do you bundle all that together if you want to, deploy it in different places. So I think it's yeah, I think there's going to be some complexity here that hasn't quite been figured out yet. I guess that's why they make it a shared spec. So then these things can hopefully be thought through a bit more.
Yeah.
But we will see. Time will tell.
Yeah, we're thinking. So one thing, we're going to support skills in Mastra. We're going to looking into like how we do that. What's the right way of doing it? We're thinking about also, we have our Mastra MCP server. Is a Mastra skill more effective for a coding agent than the MCP server? That's something that we're going to go find out, and we'll let you all know because we don't know here or there, right?
And also it's like it might depend on the model and the agent,
Correct.
and there's a lot of variables to when.
Yeah, because Opus can do anything, right? So
yeah. So Sujay says MCPs are context expensive. Okay. And
I think this
Brad,
is context expensive too, right?
yeah.
All this bullshit in the skills folder.
Yeah, you got to load in that whole thing. Brad asks, are they versioned? How are they distributed? What is the implication of having 4, 5, 20 different skill descriptions in the wild? You just described the exact same questions I think we would have had around MCP. And then all of a sudden you saw all these MCP registries pop up, and it became the Wild West out there for MCPs and tools and all that. And I think that you're going to see the same thing, if I were to guess.
Yeah. So like there are two types of agents with skills, right? One agent has access to a file system. So there you go. Your skills and everything you can do and this is all coding agents type stuff, right? But if you're like, let's say you have like a programmatic agent that's a server or like a non-coding agent, let's say, then you need to have access to skills. You need to be able to read those skills. And so in the integration spec, they require agents like that to have a tool to search and load skills. So it's only one tool call, let's say, or it's a search tool plus adding it to the context window and then executing it. So it doesn't really matter about the tool search part of it, right? I think that's what like that I think that's kind of like a solved problem that they're trying to say. You don't need to have multiple tools. You just have one tool to search everything, and then based on that tool, you do everything else. So that'll be better.
Yeah, I do think versioning is an interesting question because let's say you pull a skill off the shelf and you use it. let's just call it, say you had a skill that taught you everything about Mastra. It teaches you everything about Mastra at that point in time. What about in 2 months when we release a whole bunch of new things and we've updated the skill to represent that? Well, now you need to keep upstream versions. There's and maybe you use, some kind of like package manager for that. Like it gets to be kind of messy. I think there's some like very, very
there is front
significant
matter,
unknowns.
right? All the MD files have front matter with, I think like, they might have version on them. I haven't fully understood the spec, but there's other metadata you could add in the top. But it still gets messy real quick.
Yeah. So,
because like for example, Mastra skills would be based on the version of Mastra, right? So there'd be a skill for each version.
Yeah. So I mean, you can see. So there's a metadata author version. Those are optional fields by the looks of it. So you could version is, you could version with this metadata, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
But
and then maybe you import it. Maybe we should export it from Mastra Core, so you can just like get it with the version.
Yeah. Just think of, there's some extra like complexity around just how to manage this in your code base if you wanted to keep upstream updates for these skills over time.
And how do you auth a skill? It's gonna be very awkward. I wonder how that's gonna go. It's gonna be fun. I don't know how.
Yeah, there are things for us to figure out, and we'll see if this feels a little bit like it's the MCP moment back when we were, I don't know, when was it, like February last year, maybe
early, yeah.
January, February. Like obviously MCP came out earlier than that, but I think there was a moment where it just became really important. So this kind of feels like that a little bit. We will see if it has the same impact or not, and how people start to make decisions around what should be skills, what should live in MCP servers.
Yeah, with anything, we're going to see some exaggerated uses, of course. Yeah. And then hopefully we can like consolidate on what they actually are. And let's see, I wonder all the registries are going to have skills on them. All the MCP companies will probably have skills. That's just a bet that I have for 2026. And maybe we'll have a registry for skills. Yeah,
there'll be a MCP registry and a skills registry. Absolutely. And a lot of them will be the same things.
Yeah, Sam was telling us that there was a dude selling skills on Twitter, like a couple $100. You get all his like productivity skills for writing or something like that too. So there's
it was like a kind of makes sense. It was like a copywriting skill set, which is all, if you think about it, let's say you were going to buy a book. Like, let's just go back. This is actually really good segue. Let's say you're going to buy a book, this book, right? What if you could just download this as a skill to your agent and just say, like, now your agent knows everything about building other AI agents, or everything about copywriting, or everything about sales or whatever. And now, but it's specific towards, it's not just like the general agent's knowledge. It's specific towards like, I really trust this person. I like that their style. And I think I want my agent to speak a little bit more like that person when I'm having it help me write blog content or landing page content in the case of copywriting skills. So yeah, there's someone that is basically selling a prepackaged skill of like all their copywriting tips. Yeah. And I feel like there's going to be a marketplace. There should be, a marketplace of skills. I suppose that is kind of what ChatGPT wanted with their, their apps that they had in a way, right? It's just like Anthropic's take on it, but now it's becoming more of a standard.
We're going to have like a freaking theme forest for skills, dude.
Oh, everything that's old is new again.
Oh, for sure. And this guy was charging like $200 for his skills pack. So like it's lucrative. Maybe some of y'all watching should get into the skills hustle and see how it goes.
Yeah, if you're listening, if you're not going to do it, shout some ideas. What are some skills that some people should be building here? Let's manifest this thing into existence. So, so this one says, could be a good way to onboard novelists or copyright holders into working with AI. You sell the skill to the AI model. If they buy the skill, I can have AI read and reference it. Yeah. There's like a whole bunch of different things. I think if we kind of think through what possibilities would be here in this new, like everyone has their AI agent, but rather than selling you, I'm no longer selling you my content. I'm selling your AI agent my content. You just buy it for your agent and give it to them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move the show along and let's do some news. So we got nothing, a few big things, I guess, but nothing, I guess, as big as it was like last week with some of the models. But we do have Chat GPT images, so let's pull that up. Give me 1 second, and we can maybe we can just watch this. Why not?
Reflecting all the angry skies, soft and fragile body left here on the wet quay, still afloat, fresh from the boat. Arms and legs under the bonnets, blue clouds flashing disregards. Arms and legs under the bonnets, blue clouds flashing disregards. Ever slightly breathing, no more flow under the skin. Become sad souls left to roam.
All right, so ChatGPT announced, or OpenAI announced ChatGPT images last week. So they have a flagship new image generation model, stronger instruction following, precise editing, detailed preservation, faster than before. So my guess is this is kind of their, retaliation towards Nano Banana, right? Trying to be competitive. I haven't.
Brock already had this though. Just saying.
Yeah, well, also Nano Banana has been around for a while. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's significantly better or different. I will say, I made a Christmas card and I tested ChatGPT, and this is before this announcement, compared to Gemini, and Nano Banana. Nano Banana is way better. So I'd be curious to try it now and just see if it's improved. But before, they definitely had some major gaps compared to what was out there with Google's model.
Yeah, image editing used to be really bad in ChatGPT, so I gotta definitely test it out now. Supposedly it's been really good. A good image editing test for anyone is what I do. If you want to try image editing, take a movie poster, any movie poster you like, and see if you can change put your name as the director, and change some of the graphics if they have text on it, and you can see how good a model is. Nano Banana is super good at modifying those types of things. ChatGPT not so much. You won't have consistency per edit. It won't remain consistent.
Yeah, that's actually a good test because it also tests text. You can put yourself, your image, take a picture of you, put yourself as the lead character, but also changing the text is an interesting one because it's got to preserve the style as well. It's not just changing the text, it's making the style work and fitting it into space. So that's actually, I haven't heard that one before. That's the movie poster test.
Yeah, I've been trying to change the Ocean's 11 poster for a long time. It just does not work.
Yeah, that's the key. Can we get us in Ocean's 11?
Yep, that's really what I'm trying to do.
So OpenAI also announced GPT-5.2 codex. So that came out last week. You can see here, codex launched, but let's actually pull up the full blog post. And it's the most advanced agentic coding model yet from OpenAI. And you can see they do have a few benchmarks, but one comment someone on our team made is they don't really show very many benchmarks, where oftentimes you'll see a list of a bunch of benchmarks. I think they were pretty selective in what they showed, mainly because maybe it doesn't perform as well across all the benchmarks. That's just, we'll see. We'll see how it all ends up coming out. I haven't done a lot of research since that comment was made to see if they've come out and shared more, but I thought that was kind of interesting.
I don't know. I forgot if they I don't think they did, but did they compare themselves against others? They only compared themselves against themselves, right?
At least in this document. Well, yeah, in this document, they're kind of just comparing themselves against themselves, which is fine, I guess. But maybe because they wouldn't want to compare themselves against Opus. I wouldn't want to either.
Yeah, no way. I do know a lot of engineers using Codex CLI, and my first question is why. But second,
Yeah.
I guess it's popular to some people.
No, I was talking to someone last week and he said Opus 4.5 is great, but Codex, and he was on 5.1 Codex, said it was actually really, really good. And I didn't dig in more around why, but he also he knew his stuff because he was talking through, all the open source models. He basically stack ranked them. He had like a list of like his order. And so
Mhm.
I trust his opinion a little bit. He was an educated opinion. This is the Theo guy says that ChatGPT or OpenAI is satisfied being second place in everything except the web chat interface, which, maybe that's okay. Maybe they're okay being, as long as they're a close second in everything and they have the user base, that people are still going to use them, right?
Yeah.
So
Also, like if price becomes a concern and they're like price gouging each other, then the only reason I'm maxing out my Claude stuff is because I got a max plan. If I had to pay for all this shit, I would be maybe not using.
so Anthropic released something called Bloom. It's an open source tool for generating behavioral misalignment evals for frontier AI models. So Anthropic's, they're always the ones who want to kind of talk through or be vocal about AI safety. And so they have released this, and let's dig into that a little bit and see what it is. So essentially it's a tool for trying to monitor behaviors or basically eval behaviors of AI models. And so we talked through this a little bit about giving personality tests to models and things like that, and seeing like how different models do across different benchmarks. And so you can see their benchmarks are delusional sycophancy, instructed, long horizon sabotage, self-preservation, self-preferential bias. So, when we showed that one a couple weeks ago, we are actually onto something, because now it's becoming, if Anthropic's doing it, it's adding even more credibility that this is something we should be monitoring, because if we're interacting with these people, these agents every day, we should kind of know maybe some of their tendencies and some of their leanings and how they might try to encourage you to do, or how their behaviors might encourage you in certain ways.
Yeah. We should. Okay, so for the user or the listeners, we have this hypothesis, or mainly Shane's hypothesis, that's been coming true, that us as humans want to personify agents, right? We give them names and images and pictures. Claude is a name, like it's a cool with an E at the end, but there's Claude. And you can have them in Slack, you can have them in Discord, you're going to be talking to them, and the way they respond is also important. We saw, what was that? Who published that other benchmark, which was about like the psychoanalysis of LLMs, and Google was the worst, and it was all over the place, just on like how
Yeah,
mentally unstable models are.
yeah, I'll see if I can pull it up, but yeah, I know it. I'll find it.
So this is an extension. I mean, Anthropic has a philosopher on their staff, right? They're thinking about these things because maybe these things actually do matter to a lot of like people.
Yeah, I can't find it. I'll find
I
it at
think
some point. But yeah, I think it is it's an important question to ask, and I'm actually really happy that Anthropic's doing this, because it adds even more credibility to it, and I think we should be keeping track of this kind of stuff, because there's just a lot. If we do believe that agents are going to be an interface into something that humans are going to consistently interact with on a daily basis, we should know these kind of things, because what is the thing that people always say, you are who you hang around, or whatever. You're the sum of your 5 best friends. Well, if your 5 best friends are Claude, Gemini, and whatever, you better know who you're becoming friends with. All right, and so let's continue on. So that's Anthropic. Google's done some things, a few things from the Google side. This is the first one. This first one here I'm actually really excited about. So Google has basically added Notebook LM into the Gemini app. So I don't use the Gemini app, but I do use Notebook LM. And now I'm actually more interested in using the Gemini app and maybe having it replace ChatGPT for me, because I actually really like Notebook LM. Mainly, it's a couple different features. Like you can upload a bunch of PDFs. So if you have like a research paper, my main use case is if there's a 50-page research paper that I know I'll never have the time to read the whole thing. Well, I'll upload it. I'll maybe ask a few questions about it. I'll read the summary, and then I may have it generate a podcast for me, and I'll listen to it on the go. So I can get like a 15-minute summary about a research paper that I know I'll probably never have the time to read, right? There's too much content to read everything. But if I have a 10, 15-minute car ride and I can listen to one of those things, I don't do it that frequently, but that's my main use of Notebook LM. And so bringing that into Gemini, well, if I could kind of compose notebooks just as, alongside my general agent chat where I'm asking questions and things like that, that kind of becomes pretty interesting. So I'm interested to try this
Pretty
out.
legit. It's pretty, and you can generate apps in there. Like you can do everything in there.
Yeah, you can generate app. Yeah, Gemini is becoming, maybe Gemini is going to be the everything app. X was
Maybe,
supposed to be the
dude.
everything app. Maybe Gemini is going to be it. It's like,
Maybe.
yeah, I don't know. Google, we've made that prediction. Google is doing some cool things.
They're coming for your head.
So this one, this is kind of interesting. They introduced Agent Development Kit for TypeScript, build AI agents with a code-first approach. APIs look pretty familiar. So, I think it's...
Wow, how unique.
I think it's the agent framework. The agent primitive of agent frameworks is becoming pretty commoditized at this point. Even Google's doing it. So, it's becoming... but that also means it's becoming more stable, right? So you can rely on the interface a bit more, because if you look at everyone's, they all look about the same.
Yeah.
They look exactly like ours 6 months ago. No, I'm kidding. But also serious. There's a lot of, I guess, consistency across frameworks when you're building agents in TypeScript or even Python now.
Yeah, they're all kind of coalescing on the same abstraction.
All right. And this one caught me by surprise a little bit, because I wasn't expecting this. This was not on my bingo card, but it makes sense. NVIDIA releases Nemotron 3 Nano, a new 30 billion parameter hybrid reasoning model. So it's a 1 million context window, best in class for SWE-bench, reasoning, and chat. All right.
That was out of nowhere.
So, it is NVIDIA has entered the game. The interesting thing about NVIDIA is they have no shortage of cash because everyone else pays them. So, they if anyone could enter a very competitive space and have the funds to compete, NVIDIA is definitely one of them.
Dang, dude. Well, it's gonna get hot in 2026. I would say like model companies are gonna definitely, it's gonna be like a war.
So Dex is paying attention on LinkedIn. What's up, Dex? Thanks for tuning in. Hashim's here. Hashim, good to see you got the technical issues worked out. All right, so let's talk about Cursor. Graphite is joining Cursor. Did you see all the jokes last week around Cursor just like shipping too fast and having a bunch of bugs? And then someone's like, they tried to solve their bugs by buying a PR review company, a code review company, to review their code better. I mean, it was funny. But Graphite, for those that don't know, is kind of like a code review agent, right? And acquired by Cursor. Sounds like they're going to continue independently. We'll see if that actually is true. So a lot of teams say that, and then over time it changes, but we'll see. Yeah. I imagine
that shit.
Yeah, I imagine there's a strategic angle to it, right? They want to pull Graphite into maybe their tools, and maybe you have Cursor background agents, you have Cursor PR review bots, and all these things. So Cursor's making some moves.
Yeah, and Graphite wasn't always a code review agent. I think when it first started, they were trying to have a better GitHub, so they like stack PRs and these better GitHub features. Then from there, you could go to like Graphite. Like at one point, and I think this is still true, they were mirroring GitHub too. So you go to your repo within Graphite and have those nice like better GitHub features that GitHub doesn't have because they're slow and stuff. And then over pivots and stuff, they kind of ended up at this, code review with the diffs and everything. And Cursor, I think they're trying to rebuild GitHub, honestly. Cursor, they're crazy enough to do it. And this also gets you a squad who may know how to do it if they're trying to do that stuff. So I think that's pretty interesting. There's so much GitHub hate right now that there are actively companies doing this, but there's so much GitHub hate that I would not be surprised if there is a new GitHub or if someone thinks that they're bold enough to take on a new GitHub. And I think these guys are wild enough to do it though.
Yeah, I mean the angle is agentic coding need, you're writing more code than ever. You need new ways to manage it. I can see the pitch in my head, right? The bold pitch that if you look at the value of GitHub and you basically can make the claim that maybe GitHub bought by Microsoft's kind of like deteriorated a bit, or maybe just isn't staying up to date with as quickly. I can see the angle. It is a bold bet though.
It's a bold bet. And I already seen Jared's over there at Microsoft making moves. Like I do think GitHub will get better. But I think some people they're not willing to wait.
Is GitHub the Salesforce of the engineering world?
I never thought so, but so many people are like, I never had that opinion myself. I like GitHub. I just use whatever.
Yeah.
It's not like I need anything more than what it gives me. But
I mean, because obviously I've used like GitLab and Bitbucket and all those, right? But GitHub is the dominant player.
So here's the funny thing. Why did GitLab take off? It's because they had the CI/CD built in, and you could do private repos. Back then, you remember at GitHub, you had to be like paid plan to even do private repos, right? So then it took GitHub like many years to even give us those features. So it's a fair critique to say that these fools aren't doing anything UX wise for us. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. Some comments in the chat. Sujay thinks GitHub's perfect. I disagree. I don't think they're quite perfect, but I do use them. I do like GitHub. I don't quite share the hate, but I do see the Salesforce comparisons. Robot Glock says, saw a comparison of NVIDIA's dedicated hardware devices, Sparks or Thor, while better than even the most spec'd out 5090 box. A Mac M4 with similar amount of RAM smokes the NVIDIA hardware. That's interesting. And then Brad says, Apple's quietly shipping AI hardware upgrades like RDMA support in Mac OS, for instance. So yeah, you can do some pretty amazing things with, your Mac. Just what you're probably watching this on right now.
Yeah.
All right. Another announcement. This one came out today. So our friends over in Vercel land, AI SDK 6, it's out.
Woo-hoo,
so they've been, if you've been following online, they've been showing some of the things. You've been seeing a lot about it. They have agents, tool improvements. If you look at their agents, it's going to look similar to the Google one.
Let's look at it.
What?
Let's look at it.
Should we compare?
How unique?
Model, instructions, tools. Yeah, I mean, it's all pretty basic, pretty straightforward. But they got agents, tool improvements, MCP support. They have their own little dev tools thing. They had image editing, which was cool.
Yeah.
I didn't see this. LangChain adapter rewrite.
They had they had one in V4.
So what, you can use a LangChain stuff with
and there you will a LangChain model interface or whatever. Why would anyone want to do that? I wonder.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Also, this Vercel little Christmas hat seems a little off brand. That's a little too cute for Vercel, I think. I don't know, but I like it.
Oh yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah, you see it? That's a nice little touch. So yeah, AI SDK 6. What is our support? Let's timeline for AI SDK 6, because if you use Mastra, we kind of build on top of at least their provider interface, right? Their model interface.
Mhm.
What say you?
Yes. We already support V6 and V1 or Mastra V1. And we'll be doing another release. You'll be able to use Tool Loop Agent as well in Mastra. And yeah, it just works,
So Conebrink says, literally last Friday, we demoed our front end, finally working with AI SDK 5. So the good news is
you'll be
the
good.
updates for AI SDK 6 are not as bad. Going from 4 to 5 was worse than going from 5 to 6 from everything that I've seen.
Yeah.
So there's
You'll
not.
just be able to upgrade, and then everything will just continue to be the same.
Yeah. So yeah, and even if you're not using Mastra, if you're just using AI SDK on its own, going from 5 to 6 should be a lot easier than going from 4 to 5. So hopefully, yes, things are moving fast, but hopefully this upgrade doesn't hit you the same as the last one.
Yeah, that one was rough.
All right, we got a whole bunch of, we got a lot to go through today. We might not get to the prompt caching and compression until after our guest comes on, but that's okay. We got a lot of good info to share, so let's share it. Yeah, so Chatterbox Turbo is a licensed voice model that apparently beats 11 Labs Turbo and Cartesia Sonic 3. So we'll listen to just a
I don't
segment of
bluff.
this.
I make statements, and this is a statement. I don't gamble. I don't bluff. I make statements, and this is a statement.
Chatterbox Turbo supports paralinguistic prompting for the most realistic agent interactions, especially when milliseconds matter, and it has expressive vocalizations, including natural ums, gasps, and more. Best of all, it's completely open source and powered by Resemble AI. And for authentication-critical use cases, it's ready with Resemble's Perth watermarking built in. Find Chatterbox Turbo now on GitHub, Hugging Face, or resemble.ai/chatterbox.
So there you go. You see some benchmarks here, comparison of, these are more just like preferences across, I'm sure these are somewhat selected, right? But compares 11 Labs, Cartesia, Vibe Voice to Chatterbox. It's nice that it is a little bit, it's open, right? MIT licensed. That's good. Like to see good voice tools that are MIT licensed or open source.
I like sounding like Liam Neeson, dude. That was cool.
Yeah.
That's what they should just advertise his voice or Morgan Freeman's, and it'd be really good marketing for everybody.
So Letta has released Letta Code, a memory-first coding agent, open source, model agnostic, portable agent learning and memory. It's also the #1 model agnostic OSS harness on Terminal Bench. So, yeah, comparing its different models. There's Letta using those different models. So that's cool. Yeah. I think if anything, this shows that memory is probably pretty important to agents, coding agents in general. And so my guess is, Letta's really big focused on trying to make memory better. So they're talking about how using their memory with, some probably, some magic, it's all open source, but some magic, you can make a pretty good coding agent.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how the coding agents companies themselves, like Open Code and, Codex and stuff, improve their memory. But yeah.
So Lemon Slice 2 is and was announced last week. It's the world's first interactive talking AI voice model. I don't know if it's the world's first. I think that feels like I've seen this before, but okay, we'll take your word for it.
Introducing Lemon Slice 2,
I'm
a
not gonna
video
watch this whole
diffusion
thing,
model
but
you can talk to.
In real time. Here, let me show you. Hey Jess, can you tell us about yourself?
I'm powered by the new Lemon Slice video model. Just upload a photo, pick a voice, and then immediately jump into a FaceTime call.
Our new real-time model is out now. We've partnered with a...
Hey there, it's me, Gecko from Geico. What can I help you with?
Sam Altman at your service. So what's on your mind?
Lemon Slice 2 is a large diffusion transformer video model that's streaming at 20 FPS on a single GPU. Until now, real-time video generation was stuck inside research papers. That changes today. It's available for you to use in production as an API or a widget. Try it now on lemonslice.com.
So there you go. That's kind of cool. I guess the real-time aspect is the big difference, right? It's not the, can you turn an image into saying these words, but can you take an image and now all of a sudden immediately talk to it like it's a real, yeah.
I'm making one right now. I'll let you
Okay.
know.
Try it out. Yeah, let's see if we can talk to some character.
Yeah.
All right, while you're doing that, I'll keep moving.
I'm gonna use Ward's picture.
It's not going to have his accent, you know? It's not going to be legitimate. Browser use has open source BU30B A3B preview. Model name needs a little work, but I like what this is showing. They say it's the best model for web agents. See how it performs. If you go like tasks per dollar, task to accuracy ratio is really good, right? Compared to some of the other models. Not necessarily the highest performance, but pretty high in comparison. But obviously like the amount per dollar is significant. I don't know what is considered a task, you know, I guess I'd have to do a little looking, but that's cool. Congrats to the guys over at Browser Use, to that team.
Yeah, it's awesome. I wonder if the other browsers will come and try to make a model too.
I would imagine. So
yeah. One thing about this, they charge you up front, so I'm not gonna do anything. $8? Come on, give me a free.
Yeah, you need a free. Give you those free credits, right?
Yeah, it's one generation, dude.
Nobody wants to pay $8. So Firecrawl introduced their agent. So you describe what you need with or without a URL, and the agent will search, navigate, gather information. So really, this seems like a deep research agent, really. And I guess that's what it is. Think of it as a deep research for data sets. So I've actually, heard some people that were using Firecrawl for, search plus, kind of this deep research, and they've been testing this out, and seems like it's pretty good. My hot take here is that deep research is going to become just a tool.
Yeah.
It's like there was a big push to build your own research agent at one point last year, right? Everyone was like, a lot of people had templates for this how to build we have a template for building a deep research agent. And I think that's just going to become commoditized by all these different providers. They're going to build their own implementation. It's going to, everyone's going to be pretty good. There might be some that are better at certain tasks, but you'll have, things like Perplexity, but all these search API interfaces, all these web scrape tool interfaces are going to just be building deep research APIs. So if you want to do deep research, you just pick which provider you want, and you give it that tool, and now your agent can do deep research. You don't need to write that yourself.
Yeah, and there's no value in having your own deep. Maybe there is, I guess, but if you're just trying to do the traditional, let's call it the vanilla deep research, why do you need to write any code? Just call it API.
Yeah. And Robot Glock says Perplexity is good for deep research. I agree that they're a good option. But we also see like Exa and there's others that have kind of similar.
Tavili, Exa.
They're all going to have their own deep research. Firecrawl's good, but you think this will outperform AppFi?
Maybe. AppFi has more than just this, right? So it's like a marketplace as well. Firecrawl has a lot since we first met them a year ago. Or maybe they've just added to their product suite, but it wasn't always this way, like having all these things. So they definitely found something.
Yeah, I remember when I first used Firecrawl, I just needed to scrape some web pages. Like that was what it was, like a somewhat smart scraping tool. And then it was just to get context into an LLM, right? It's like scrape the web page, put it in the context. And now there's so many other ways to do that I'm sure Firecrawl still does that. That's still probably part of their business, but they do a lot more now.
Yeah, they're just trying to make like the web, like these websites and stuff like programmatic, right? I can just have a URL, I can search things, I can map them, I can crawl them, all that type of stuff. So it's definitely expanded.
All right, so Quen Image Layered is live.
Oh,
So that's kind of cool because it's
that's really
probably the
cool.
first image model where it's, if you ever use Photoshop, you always have to layer things. And if it allows you to do that layering and just talk to very specific layers one at a time, I feel like maybe you can pull off that Ocean's 11 poster
Yeah.
you're talking about. Just put them all in different layers. So I don't know exactly how it works, but you can specify 3 to 10 different layers. You can you can do layers within layers. So if you could easily point to an image and say like, hey, change this into like layer this thing, and then let me edit each layer individually, it kind of gives you, it's almost like a natural language on top of Photoshop in a way.
Yeah, that's really cool. I want to play with that later.
Yeah. So that's pretty neat. Was excited to see that. Thought this one was pretty interesting that Open Router now supports Cloud Code. So that's, I'm assuming that you just, Cloud Code's interesting because it typically, needs to run on your computer, right? So it just runs the SDK behind there, in their infra, I'm assuming. You
Pretty
know if
much
that's how that
it's the
works?
Cloud Code harness, I guess.
Yeah. So you can just hit Cloud Code directly through Open Router. Now I want your opinion on this one. Is Postgres just a search engine now? So PG Text Search was open source, so you can use BM25 to search your database.
Dude, Postgres is becoming the everything database. There's search capabilities. You can make it into a graph database. And then now with Supabase and Neon, it's even easier to get started. And now with like search capabilities, it's going to be even better.
Yeah. So the question is, do you still need Elastic? Do you, maybe you probably do at scale, but at what level of scale do you now need it? Can you just use this for certain levels of scale and get away with it? There's some questions I think this opens up. I also have been hearing a lot of our master users thinking about how do I do, semantic search with BM25 and do like a hybrid and then combine the results, because there's nothing wrong with BM25 search for a lot of use cases. And so in fact, you may want to do both. Why not? Why pick just one? What if you could take the results of both, re-rank, and then re-rank those results? So there's a lot of things I think if you have text search built in directly to the database and you have vector capabilities built into the database, you could more easily kind of build these like hybrid search interfaces where it gives you the best of both worlds.
So the database layer is adding hybrid search as a native thing. Like Chroma just did it last week during their launch week. They have hybrid search. MongoDB will have hybrid search. Elastic, like the search companies or the database companies will have it. The downside of doing this in PG is you're doing this through like open source extensions that your provider probably supports. It's not against that. It's just like you're kind of like you're in the PG community of people doing this with Postgres. And that's the only thing I worry about. Like, how many fools are as crazy as I am going to be doing this in PG because like, okay, Postgres is really easy to get start with. Everyone who uses Postgres, but you only truly master Postgres when you destroy Postgres and your application is down for hours and you bang your head against the wall and you learn about Postgres and how to actually run it. Other than that, most people are just vibe coding Postgres. They'll never actually have to hit the problems of adding a random text search indice or extension to it. So I would maybe rather just use Elasticsearch if that's like the best tool for just doing search or something.
Yeah. I don't think this is going to replace it. I think it could replace it maybe for, like vibe coding type apps, because let's be honest, most of those apps are never making it to production.
Correct.
Some will, and
Yeah.
some will grow, and then they will crash. and
Yeah.
then
Then
and
it's
then
super
they
basic
need
problem.
and then they realize why these other companies existed. And so I
Yeah.
guess maybe there's a certain level of you could get away with some stuff. And for like learning, for demos, it's probably great. Maybe they'll make it better. So of course, like they're going to try to make it scale, I imagine, if
Mhm.
it doesn't already, and it'll get to a certain level of scale, but there's a lot of complexity. Maybe there'll probably be a new search startup that's just based on this technology that just is like, hey, this is the new way to search. We'll
I
see.
think there have been many YC companies that are trying to make like Postgres, more powerful through the company.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. We got a few more, and then I think our guests should probably be on here pretty soon. Is that right?
Yeah,
Is this
should
the
be.
time? All right. So we got this is a report, key findings from 1,200 production deployments, and this is all around, building with AI. So interesting report that I'll share here. It's on zenml.io. So I'll share it. And we'll just go through some of the high level findings. This is actually just the summary of the report. You can read the full detailed analysis. We're not going to do that today, but if you want to, it's there. Or throw it in Notebook ML, have it summarized and see if the summary is different. I don't know, up to you. But there's kind of the 6 themes, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So the biggest, first one is the proof of concept era is ending. I think our customers, master users I would echo that. We're having a lot more that are actually in production, seeing real world results. So if we jokingly say like our customers have evolved, which basically just means people are actually getting this stuff into production now. So you can see, Stripe has an agent, Ramp has an agent. These things are in production. This was this is not news to anyone watching this show. Context engineering is more than just prompt engineering, right? It's kind of overtaken it as, kind of the key way you get the most out of AI applications and agents. Guardrails are more than just like a prompt guardrail. It needs to be like kind of part of your infra. Evals are growing up. I think there's still a lot of hate on evals, but I think people are realizing they do need them in certain regards. Maybe not coding agents, which are still the most popular. Maybe they don't have a ton of evals yet, but I think Ramp would probably need evals, right? It's too important.
Yeah.
You're dealing with financial stuff. You probably need some evals there to make sure it's as accurate as possible. MCP is stabilizing. We've seen that. It's now, in this new agentic AI foundations kind of overseeing the spec, but it took off over the last year and a lot of people are using it. We talked about skills earlier, and if skills is going to completely upset MCP is not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
So it's pretty stable.
I would argue that it's not necessarily that stable, but it stabilized more than it started.
Yeah, I would actually agree. Like it's kind of like with session, like how you handle session data with MCP, and the auth still isn't fully stable. I would say this, maybe it's not stable, but it's definitely more like very used. A lot of people, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of usage of MCP. Now there is a lot of like how production ready are MCP clients and servers and all that, and how secure. There's a lot of those questions still remaining. This was my favorite one. I think there was like a narrative that you just wait for the next model release and then it'll make it better. But this is like an engineering problem you have to solve. You have to have evals, you have to learn this new tech stack, and there's a lot of new pieces you have to learn, but it's just engineering, but it's a different skill set of engineering. So it actually is a lot of work. Going from having something working, you can get something working so much faster than you ever could before. It almost feels like it should be easy to get that thing into production. It's still, arguably, it's harder to get an agent into production than just normal software. So you can get to
more people are realizing that this is software engineering again, because like for the whole year, I felt we were like battling the people who just believe Sam Altman and everything he says all the time, people versus the people who are pragmatic. And I think now when we're talking to bigger teams, they understand that they're going to need like real software engineering things to pull this off at in production, whether it's queues or like durability in their applications. They like don't believe that it's just the prompt or it's just the LLM. They'll just do everything magically, which is tight.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's, this kind of says it, like if you're going to, you have to figure out the ways to get the quality the way you want it to. It will get better hopefully with new model releases. It should get easier, but it's very much an engineering problem that you have to solve. So it takes a lot of care. It takes a lot of time. It is just because you can get something to a prototype and show your stakeholder that, hey, it's working. Well, they expect that thing to be shipped now in a month or a couple weeks, and that might not be the reality. It's going to take a lot of engineering effort, a lot of learning to actually get the thing over the finish line. And I think people who are building this stuff in practice have realized it. Like, prototype is easy, but production's pretty dang hard. All right, and with that, we're going to skip our next section for now. We'll come back to it, and we are going to bring on our guest. So, Abhi, you want to introduce our guest, and then I'll bring him on?
Yeah, let's bring on Roche from Morning Brew.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hey dude, what's up?
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Did you guys go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, did you get you guys' ChatGPT wrapped? Did you unwrap your ChatGPT wrap?
I have not yet.
It was a fun one.
Was it good? Was yours good?
Yeah, just that I talked to it a lot. It's off 1%.
I'll look at mine now. Let's see.
Yeah,
I did the wrapped.
Yeah, I mean, I can only guess what it's going to tell me. It's like, you ask a lot of questions about this. Why? Are you going through some stuff with this other thing? You talk about your kids a lot. Like I know what it's going to say to me, but that's cool. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I use the voice mode a lot. I was hoping it would tell me like how many minutes I spent, but maybe it's a good thing that it doesn't tell me, because it's probably an absurd amount of minutes that I spend talking to it.
They're probably like, we need to charge you more.
Yeah,
you're one of the people who need to charge more money to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Yeah, for those that don't know, you want to give a quick intro and a little bit about your background, and then we're happy to talk through how Morning Brew, what you're doing over at Morning Brew.
Yeah. I'm Rashvan, software engineer at Morning Brew. Work on the product team. Morning Brew, digital media newsletter company. A lot of folks may be subscribed, but I'm spending my time there building cool monster workflows and building monster workflows elsewhere and bringing them to Morning Brew.
How long has Morning Brew been building? Been in the space of trying to work with these LLMs and building AI agents?
Yeah, tons of tinkering, right? Like a lot of the works on localhost, but get it to production is tough. But this year's been, we've got some stuff into prod and things are looking good. So a lot of tinkering this year. I feel like a lot of the pieces kind of fell right this year with agents and workflows and durable workflows, where it's a little bit easier to build now with them. But yeah, mostly this year, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, can you tell us about some of the stuff you're automating, you're building that, and how it's hopefully helping you all do more over there?
Yeah, sales intelligence tools are pretty hot right now, like the AI SDRE type things. You may have seen for sales sort of open source this lead agent recently that they kind of have a repo up for with the workflow development kit and the AI SDK and whatnot. And we were looking in that space as well. We've got a rev org and sellers and account managers and creative strategists, and we were looking at trying to find ways to kind of apply AI, LLMs, agents, workflows, all the buzzwords, RAG, whatever you want to throw at the wall. We've tried to implement to kind of better those processes, make it easier for sellers to prospect, to do deep research, and those sort of things with a lot of our advertising partners and such.
Yeah. We did have a question in the chat, and maybe you did gloss over it quickly, but for those that don't know that are watching, can you just describe a little bit more about what Morning Brew is? Yeah,
Morning Brew is a digital media newsletter company. So we package up sort of your daily business news, in this really nice, easy to read 5-minute email. shows up in your inbox every morning. It's got your daily digest of all sort of business news. And then we've got other verticals like Marketing Brew and Tech Brew and IT Brew that are sort of more tailored towards different industries. And so you can get your sort of 5-minute marketing dive in your inbox. And then we're pretty active on socials too. We've got awesome YouTube channels with really, really cool content.
Yeah,
How many engineers are at Morning Brew?
There are 5 product engineers, a couple data engineers, a couple PMs, designers. So we've got the whole suite.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, and Morning Brews, how long has it been around? I remember hearing about it. I don't remember how long ago, and it kind of came out of nowhere. I think it felt like, and then all of a sudden I saw it everywhere.
Yeah, I think the company is like 10 years old now.
Yeah.
But tons of growth between 2019 and today. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I heard about it probably 7-8 years ago. I don't know, and then it was like the coolest way to get just like a daily recap email, and it was just I originally thought of it like, oh, Morning Brew is just a newsletter company, right? But now it's like, no, it's way more than that. It's like a whole media company now. But it probably started as a newsletter company, and then it, as many things do, it's evolved into being so much more, and obviously has a lot more than just your daily email. But I think it still provides a lot of value in just a short amount of time.
Yeah, it's definitely grown up over the years. We have like 8 or 9 domains, just web, newsletter, social footprint. Yeah, it's definitely grown up up from my newsletter company, more of a media company.
Seems like a product that would really benefit from AI, right? There's so much text involved with this thing. What are you guys doing to like bring AI to your product?
We're trying to find ways to sort of like apply it internally. Feels like the easiest way. Your stakeholders are close, your teammates are close, the problems are close, and so applying it to internal apps or internal workflows to make folks' lives easier feels like the best, easiest way to go about it. And then what that looks like from some customer facing side, TBD. We sort of like pride ourselves in a lot of like the content that we write, and so applying AI to write the content is not something that we're totally bought into. We've got like tons of journalists, newsletter writers, editors, copywriters that do a lot of that work really, really well. And so a little bit hesitant there, but it's free game pretty much everywhere else.
Do you all, I guess, how do you think about, you said using Master workflows? Are these things that are just automatically run, like workflows that get triggered during certain events? Are these things that your team are, going and manually firing off? Do you kind of bake everything into workflows, or how do you balance between deciding like, should this be an agent? Should this be a workflow? How do those things work together?
Yeah, we've got sort of both agents within the workflow steps themselves. And so we're sort of mixing and matching. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to know which step is an agent and which step is a workflow, but that's on us to figure out. But yeah, we're using it today, in our sort of like this sales intelligence platform that we've built, similar to sort of like the Vercel lead agent, where you can prospect a company and then Master workflows kick off to help you research, what that company is about, who their competitors are, what space they play in, and then we've got cool integrations with our own sort of proprietary data where we can kind of pull insights from our audience and kind of partner with an advertiser and say, hey, you should work with us in this brand because it makes sense to your audience and it makes sense for our audience. So this would be a good fit, sort of thing. But yeah, we do the whole thing. We've got agents, Master agents. We've got Master workflows. We've got a little bit of a RAG pipeline within one of the workflows, and yeah, that's kind of how we're using that today.
Do you have any demos for us today?
I do. I have 2 demos. One is more fun, and then one is on the Morning Brew side that I can show a little bit of. Not too much though.
Well, which one do you want to do first?
Let's do the fun one first. Well, they're both fun, but yeah. We actually just we had a sort of like a product book club thing that we ran, and the book that we did this time was the Principles of Building AI Agents. So we just early this morning. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah, I had Sam send me a box, and I took it to like an event in Nashville, and people just like ate them up. I actually need more. I need to reach out for some more books.
We will. Yeah, we will send you more.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a good call out for those of you who have not gotten your copy. you can go to monster.ai/book, get your digital copy. I think there's, in the email you get, there might be a way to request a physical copy as well, depending on where you live. We send out a lot of copies if you want your hands on a physical one. And you can get the second one too,
Yeah, we got to get that one. But yeah, a lot of MCP questions, especially with the like USB-C analogy. Everybody wanted to know like how it works and why it's there and all those. But let's jump into the demo. So this is kind of how I started using. You guys can see my screen, right?
We can.
Sweet. Yeah. This is how I came across Mastra and started tinkering with it. We wanted to create stories for kids, or help parents create stories for kids. In like the ChatGPT report, like 20% of all usage is like content creation for like storytelling or education. Like parents are like going into ChatGPT and asking for kids, bedtime stories or like fun fact stories and those sort of things, so they can like tell their kids. And so we started playing with Mastra workflows to generate these audio stories. And so you can come into the platform, create a story, choose kind of like what type of story you want, who it's for. So Layla and Issa are my niece and nephew, so I generate stories for them all the time. And then whether you want their names included, choose a voice from 11 Labs, and then like a light prompt of like what you want the story to be about. So like us going to the zoo or whatever you want it to be. And then you can generate the story. And this is a Mastra workflow that runs. So we're generating the story text and then immediately running a score against it to make sure it's kid safe. If it's not, the whole thing goes away. And then iterating through the workflow, different workflow steps, sending the story to 11 Labs to get the audio, getting it back, generating an image using Replicate and Seed Dream. And so sort of each workflow step as you generate a story will run with Mastra. And in a little bit here, we'll have like a full kids audio story with text transcript and all.
So this is, so I previously had built a service called Audio Feed, and it was somewhat similar to this in some ways, not exactly the same. And I also always wanted this like storybook image. Once image generation and stable diffusion came out, I always wanted to build this like storybook creator. And I've seen more and more, it's becoming more and more possible, I think, over the last 6 months than it was, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when I was really playing around with it. And so it's kind of amazing to see the progress. Like my dream is like, because I have 2 kids, my dream is to have this, in audio form. My kids love audio stories, but I also like, maybe like, could you give it to me in like images so you can like, I can flip through and I can read the story to my kid. And then maybe like give me an option to actually like, if they really love this story, I want to print this thing as a book, let me print that
watch
thing.
it as a 8-minute kids show,
Yeah, when I first started working on Library FM, the idea was like you could build your kids library. So you'd come on here, prompt whatever, choose a story, and then using image models, you could just have a storybook and then like be able to like print the story and put it like on your library shelf. When I first started building though, like image models were a little bit funky still, like LoRa models weren't easily accessible. Character consistency was tough, but like my first version of it was like a book that you could sort of like flip through digitally with like the story and the images. But then we just kind of paired it down to audio stories.
Yeah, character consistency was the hardest part, but it is getting better, especially if you generate the characters ahead of time. But it's a pretty detailed workflow. Like generate the characters, okay them, now generate the images. So I think it's becoming more possible.
Yep, and then here we go. Mastra workflow ran. We've got a little image for the story. We've got the text, and then you can play the story, share it, or sync to like we integrated them with like these kids boxes, these audio boxes.
Dude.
So they go straight to the Tonys or they go straight to the Yodo device. They're pretty
the
cool.
Tonys?
Yeah,
dude. Abi knows about the Tonys. He was gonna, my daughter loves her Tony's box.
Yeah, but now you just can generate sort of like basically infinite content for your kids. Really nice audio stories. Like the 11 Labs voices are like really, really good. So like, and if you can get your prompting down to like create a good story, then you can, create some pretty good ones. But yeah, the Mastra workflow is it goes like we generate the story text, then we evaluate toxicity. Like that's important. We save the story, then we generate an image based on the story. Then we generate like sound effects, we process the audio, we evaluate the story quality at the end for our own selves, like using a Masha score. And then we, return it in this sort of interface. That's much easier for folks to consume. But this is kind of how I started with Masha, and I was like, workflows are cool. We can do more things with this. And then I took it to work and implemented some stuff there as well. But
yeah, I think that's a lot of people. They start, you have some kind of project, you want to play around with it, and then you decide you like it, or it fits the use case, and then you just bring it into your daily job. This is cool.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun to build, and still building. Maybe we'll we'll partner up on some features your kids want, and
well, if
get them some stuff.
Yeah, I'm telling you, be awesome to be able to create images if you wanted to for it, if you really like the story, and eventually turn it into a book. And there's a lot of features you could add, but I think even just the sync. I was going to ask you, like, could you clearly have do you have kids, or you just have like niece and nephew or something?
Yeah, it's my niece and nephew. They're around a ton. My co-founder that I work with, he's got 2 kids though, so we get to
that Tony's and that Yodo connection. That's clutch. That's the differentiator right there. Now I actually can try it.
What's that?
Are you selling, or is this like?
Yeah, this is live. We've got like a subscription. $10 a month, $12 a month gets you unlimited stories. So definitely we'll have some users that we need to like keep an eye on because they create a ton of stuff. But then you can come on here, library.fm, sign up. You get 3 stories for free. You can sync them to your boxes and those sort of things. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, if you have children and it's Christmas time, make a Christmas story for your kids.
Yeah, they're great. But yeah, the Yodo and Tony's integrations are clutch. Especially with the Yodo, they give you like the Yodo card, the custom card that you can sync to with your device. And then the Tonys have like the little figurines that you put on. My niece and nephew love them. I still can't get him to like give up his Spider-Man one. He loves the Spider-Man one on the Tonys. But yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. My daughter has a few that she just listens to nonstop. But we do have a custom one where I can, I'll record myself doing, some
the creative Tony
reading stories and things, and like change the content occasionally. So if I could just do this and generate some, because she always asks me like, tell me a story, and I'm pretty good. I can come up with some pretty good stories on the spot, but not that good. It'd be nice to preload a few. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Say like,
but then like you said, you could just like upload your voice via Eleven Labs, and it could be you narrating the story. Like we haven't gotten there yet, but there's a ton that you can do there.
Creating characters will be sick. You could 3D print it, the Tony figure. Like there's all ways you can go with this.
Yeah, I mean, if you could define like a character, a reoccurring character, and then you could create a story and like select the characters you want in the story. That would be pretty cool. There's a lot of cool features I think you could add to this.
Maybe backstories for the characters that are present and tons of stuff.
Yeah, super cool. But then started tinkering around with this and was like, oh, okay, agents, workflows, they're getting there. We can actually build some stuff for real this time, and then identified some opportunities internally, and one of those was just like empowering our sales teams and revenue teams. And they're like generally this year, I feel like there's been a lot of like talk around like AI SDRs and using AI in sort of sales processes, using AI to prospect or like, find competitors. And so like for Sell, they published like their lead agent, they showed it off at XJS Conf. And so, this like theme of type of application was there. And I was like, we at Morning Brew have kind of already done this. But very, very similar to like a lead gen. And I'll show our Masha studio here. But we've got a workflow that, finds what brand is the most contextually relevant to a company that you're working with. Then we generate search queries. Then we, search the survey data that we have internally. And then we like generate insights. And so this is a Masha workflow amongst some others. Like we've got a competitive research workflow where you can put in a company that you're working with to put an ad in the newsletter, and then it'll do analysis on the company, and then give you like a snippet back of who else plays in that space and if we've worked with them before and those sort of things. So really trying to help enable sort of like the sales and revenue orgs, give them a little bit of AI to help with their day-to-day.
How are they liking it so far?
So far, so good. Good feedback. different feedback than you would normally get like from software that you would traditionally publish, right? Like it's some of the content is like AI generated, and they're like, "Can you make it do this?" And we're like, "Well, we can try." And then we'll see what. So a lot of it is like, let's see if we can do that, and then it's just like back to the prompt lab, hook up some APIs and see kind of what that looks like.
So how does your sales team interface with this? Is this when a lead comes in, it automatically runs this workflow, and then does it end up in whatever you're using for like a CRM, or does
all
it
of those
end up?
things are sort of like in play. We haven't got quite to the sort of like lead ingestion to research flow yet, but definitely on the table. And then same with the CRM connections, right? Like push to Salesforce or push to HubSpot. Definitely things that we'll do, but interface kind of looks something like this, where you end up you're prospecting a company, you've got some things, you got the history, you know, what they're working with, competitors. So this is like a master agent that runs and finds, you know, in this case, competitors to ramp, and does some analysis there. And then we generate these insights. So, you know, Morning Brew readers, you know, have decision-making authority in budget and finance. And so that's like an insight that we can pull back from, that we get back from our master workflow, that they can then use to either prospect or do cold outreach or just pop on a sales call and just mention that fact and that snippet to help them, you know, either close a deal or earn new business or a renewal, whatever it may be.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think the best projects start as like internal, or like the best AI. The teams that are getting farther with AI are starting like with these internal projects, and then I think it demystifies a lot of stuff because like there's not much stress around internal stuff for most part, right?
Yeah, if it's like 98% or even 90% internal, you're probably okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, you can rely on the team to understand that, okay, you're responsible, like make sure it's right. But if it's a customer facing app, you can't be 90%, right? It has to be like 99%. And
yeah, exactly. The feedback loops are tighter, and like you can just jump on a call with somebody and be like, hey, were these insights useful? Or like, when this thing ran, did it give you the things that you needed? And so, it's a lot of like, a lot of vibe scoring, a lot of vibe evals, working with people closely kind of to iterate on it and make it better. But then, here's what a snippet of what the newsletter might look like in your inbox as well. And so, you know, they're able to find, you know, working with Amazon as a partner. None of our ads are like programmatic, so they're all partnership based. So you've got a seller, an account manager, you're working with either agencies or Amazon directly in this case, or whoever the ad partner might be. And sort of the application helps them kind of get to this point where they're able to get newsletter ads sold and in front of folks.
Sick.
Cool. Yeah. So cool. 2 demos today. We got 2 for the price of 1.
Yeah. So what's next for you, Roche?
Next for me, more stuff on more stuff in that land. There's, you know, like the stuff connecting to the CRM stuff that could be helpful there. And there's just like, once you kind of get, I think a big unlock for us on the monster side. I'm a big monster shill. I shill it everywhere. I pass the books out. I use the workflows.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you.
We go to the show. I come on the show. Yeah. I just need the jersey now, like the black and green one from the TSCom. I don't have that.
We gotta get some.
Next time you're in the city, I'll grab.
Yeah. We'll get you some swag for sure.
Yeah. For sure. I might be up in January, so I'll have to like take you up on
Perfect.
On that. But yeah, the honestly when the studio came out, the Monster Studio, you know, the local dev playground was always great, but then when sort of like the more PM centric studio came out, where you could like give people access and they could see the agents running and like see the workflows running, kind of like opens up folks' eyes who are maybe not in code to see like what your representation of code looks like in an agent and workflow sort of era. Just like a lot of ideas come out of that, right? Like, oh, what if we built an agent for this? Or, oh, what if we built a workflow that did this? And so like just getting people talking about those things has been like super nice. And the studio has been like a big help for that. Just having a visual layer, just that people can just kind of like click and drag the workflow nodes, you know, is just enough to kind of get your brain going. And even for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, more to come on that. We're doing a lot. We're doubling down on some of those things to make it even better for teams like yours. I want to get the less technical people a little bit more involved. So it's good to hear. We hear that quite a bit, and we've been trying to lean into it a bit more.
Yeah, it's been a good time.
All right. Well, how should people stay in touch?
I'm on LinkedIn, Rosh Von Chalky, or on X at Rosh FM. Maybe you can drop it in the chat, or I'll drop it in the chat on my way out.
Yeah, let's drop it in there.
Yeah, reach out if you're Morning Brew curious, Mostra curious, maybe curious in general. I'm starting a new role in the next year, so you'll have to wait for that announcement. But maybe I'll take Mostra there as well. We'll see.
Well, I hope so. And
Here's
so
X. FM.
Yes, follow Rosh there. We appreciate you coming on. Come talk to us again in the future. Yeah, you now have at least one new library FM user.
There we go.
I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna see if I can get it to connect to my Tony.
You got the library.
Yeah.
Well, cool guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
I'll be around.
All right.
Yeah.
See you, Rosh.
Bye.
That was cool.
Yeah, I expected to hear about Morning Brew, which was awesome, but it was. I always like when they pull in the storybooks, audio story creator angle, because that one is particularly close to my heart because I've built it 2 different times.
Yeah.
And I never got it fully working the way I wanted to, and then I just got busy with other stuff. So yeah, that's exciting. I will share that out with a few people for sure.
I guess so we know where your biases are, because I believe a storyboard generator won a hackathon thing as well for us. So
I know, and I was the judge. It's like
you were the judge.
And then so we had a template. We have a storyboard template. We bring on some people that are building story creators. I built a couple examples. One of our first examples was a story creator.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm biased. What can I say? My bias is showing. All right. Well, this show is gone on longer than I was expecting, and we're not done. So now it's probably a good time for those of you that are just joining us. This is AI Agents Hour. We do this every Monday. Thanks for hanging out. If you have not already, go subscribe on YouTube. Give us a like. If you're watching on YouTube, just go like this video right now. If you are listening to this after the fact, thank you. You might be listening to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you're not on one of those platforms and you use one of those platforms, just go find the show. Give us a 5-star review. If you want to give us a review and it's not a 5-star, please don't give us a review at all. Just listen. That's fine. But if you are so inclined to appreciate the show and want to give us 5 stars, we do like that.
In our theme music in the intro, I love how it says give us 5 stars.
Yeah, it's like give us a review, but only if it's a 5.
It's a 5. It's in the song.
Yeah. So yeah, we appreciate you hanging out with us. We got a couple more things we're going to cover. We're going to go a little faster than maybe I expected through the prompt caching compression section. We were hoping to already get to that, but I think it's useful because I hear prompt caching and I then immediately think I know what caching is, but it's not the same thing as standard caching. I mean, it's the same concept, same ideas, but it's different. So let's pull up this and let's talk about prompt caching. We're going to go through this. We're not going to cover all of it. I'm definitely not going to cover the math behind it because one, I understand it a little bit, but I'm not saying I'm an expert at matrix multiplication or anything. And I'm definitely not going to, we don't have the time to cover it all. But there's this prompt caching blog post that was released last week on ngrok.com. It's pretty long. Again, I will try to cover the highest level of it. I've been spending a lot of time actually going deep into how LLMs work and just, reading at least, summaries of the papers and trying to understand the transformer architecture and, the attention mechanism and all that stuff. And so we'll talk through a little bit. I'm not an expert. If you're listening to this, you might not be an expert, or maybe you are more of an expert. You can tell me where we're wrong, but we'll cover the high levels here. And this post does a really good job of explaining, your initial reaction might be, this is about prompt caching. How is this going to teach me about how LLMs work? Actually, it really does. Through the method of like trying to explain how prompt caching works, it actually like psychologically just teaches you this is how LLMs work. So you got to think about, the first thing is, what's a cached token? So I think it's worth like looking at the high level LLM architecture. You have this concept of, you have a tokenizer, you have this embedding process, you have this transformer, and there's like attention, this feed forward mechanism. Attention, if you've probably heard about the paper, attention is all you need. That talks about like this attention mechanism, and then you get the output. So there's some code here. It talks a little bit about what the tokenizer does. We're not going to care too much about that yet. Let's just talk about like what tokenization is. So we probably all have heard and are using tokens, right? You're counting tokens every time you're using these models. You probably understand it's not just split on words or sentences. It's split on, it could be different. So in this case, this checkout and grok.ai is split into 5 different tokens. And not every model will tokenize things exactly the same. It's roughly close, but just know that different models tokenize slightly differently based on their training and like how they want to split out, like how they split these things into specific tokens. So this talks about why not just splitting on spaces or characters. And the cool thing about this is these are the kind of blog posts that are really informative because they actually are interactive, right? This tells you the input and it tells you the output tokens that are used. So your prompt tokens go in, the magic happens, you get output tokens out, right? But the thing that, if we rewatch this, so the input comes in and then it runs it through and it generates a token, right? And then it kind of continues this process, right? So this input tokens come in and then it has to pass the input tokens and then every token that it has already generated, right? So it's like the first character here is 2. That's the first token. And then it has to rerun the whole thing, do inference again, pass in all the input tokens plus the next token plus the next token. So it just runs this. And so you can imagine as you have, a really long input prompt, like a lot of context you're passing in, and you're generating a lot of tokens, this process runs a lot of times and it's like generating a lot of data. So that's kind of like the tokenization process. Then you have this embedding process. So now it takes the tokens that were created from this tokenizer process, and then it has to do this embedding. And if you've done anything with RAG, you kind of have an idea of roughly what embedding does. But if we look down here, there's basically like generates, essentially an array, a matrix of numbers, and that creates an embedding. So this embedding process, the goal is to try to visualize like where this specific token is in like almost like a 3-dimensional space. That's the best way. So there's a visualization here, which kind of makes it a little more clear. You can see if this was in 2-dimensional space, and you can see in 3-dimensional space, you can see like logical groupings, right, of different colors. And these tokens are like grouped along like in this like 3-dimensional space. But it's not just 3 dimensions. LLMs use a lot of dimensions. So it's really hard to kind of visualize because it's hard to visualize in more than 3 dimensions. But imagine there's a lot more dimensions, but you kind of get like these logical groupings of things. So it creates these embeddings, right? And you can see some simple code examples. One thing, if you do read through this, the code examples aren't as wild as you would think. It's actually less code than you might imagine to actually get a basic LLM working. You would expect it. I mean, it is a lot, but it's not as much as you probably would think. And then it goes into this transformer step. So this takes embeddings as input, and then essentially it moves them through this dimensional space. It does this through a couple different ways. And there's actually, you can see way more detailed architecture of what a transformer looks like. It's a little bit more complicated than this, but this is like the simple version. But it takes it through this attention mechanism. And so in this example, if we had the prompt, Mary had a little, and that was the initial prompt, it has 4 tokens. Mary had a little, and it basically, so the tension mechanism might decide where to pay attention to. Like in this sentence, that's the best way to think about it. It's like, where should I be paying attention? Well, in this sentence, the most important part in this case is Mary. If I said, Lucy had a little, that maybe doesn't make like, your brain isn't going to connect. You're not going to say lamb afterwards. But if it was Mary, it's like, okay, that's like a children's nursery rhyme. This is the most important word in this prompt, in this input prompt. So it's basically like weighing it. So it's a process that tells you like which tokens are the most important tokens. So if you scroll down and we do a little bit more, or we're not going to go through the matrix multiplication math, 1, because I'm not very good at it, 2, because it just would take a long time.
Reminds me of college.
Yeah, it's like all those things you kind of like you somewhat remember, but I don't really remember, from college. But you'll notice that like when there's only 1 token, you pay attention to just the 1 token. When you have 2 tokens, Mary had, you pay maybe more attention to the first word and a little less the second. When you have 3 tokens, Mary had a little, you can kind of see the attention mechanism is saying like, okay, we're paying attention to the A, not very much because that's not that important of a word. And then you get to the final thing, Mary had a little, and you're saying like, okay, Mary's the most important, had and are okay, somewhat important. Little is maybe less important in this case. So that whole attention mechanism is just saying which tokens are the most important. And then we talk through like how does prompt caching actually come into this? Well, you can see every time we kind of talk through how it runs this inference, you have the prompt that comes through, it generates all these things. And now imagine this process, imagine you have thousands and thousands of characters in this input prompt. It has to run through this. It's a cyclical process, right? So it has to run through this, it has to run through this, and then it's generating these on every single new token that comes in. Now imagine you could cache this process, so we don't have to run this for the input prompt anymore, and we just can kind of cache that step, so we don't have to do so many of those, of that inference, right? So many loops of that inference, and that's kind of the simplest way to explain like how prompt caching works. So it's basically caching that first part of the process, which is if you have played around with prompt caching, you realize that's why you can't change necessarily the parts higher up in the input prompt, or it'll break that cache, because everything after it has to now be regenerated, everything after something that has changed. So if you turn on prompt caching and you're using prompt caching, you'll notice that you can save a ton of money because you don't have to rerun those kind of expensive inference steps, or you can cut down the number of expensive inference steps. So that's a really quick, like we went through it really fast. I don't know if that might not make sense to you all, depending on your level of knowledge, but hopefully useful, at least anecdotes of this, like how LLMs work under the hood and how prompt caching actually works.
Yeah, and there's like, the system prompt is a different type of cache than the input prompts. And then you don't want to necessarily put dynamic data in those input messages. You should like consolidate, like you should isolate them. If you're going to do like, if you want the LLM to know the date, for example, do not put that alongside all the stuff that can be cached, because then you're just going to bust the whole thing. And then as you see, you're going to have to recursively iterate through that stuff when you don't need to.
Yeah, I mean, so if you are going to do the date, like just know what your prompt cache timelines are. Like if you can put the day, maybe that's okay. You shouldn't put a timestamp like to the second, because every time you run it, it's going to break the cache. Little things like that can save you a lot of money. And funny enough, there was a Mastra user that built an agent that's customer facing, and they told me on a call that they were doing some analysis of like, and they were still pretty early into rolling this thing out, so they were like prototyping with some users, and one of their users cost them $1,000 in one session. Damn. Because they were just like heavy using the agent, which is great, but also there was like a lot of room to be cached, a lot of things that they could be caching that they weren't, a lot of it was doing a lot of operations. Like this agent could like interact over their workspace, and it was doing a ton of stuff for them. So it was doing a lot of steps, and so that was a ton of context tokens that was that was kind of churning through. So yeah, very expensive lesson they learned, but Now, guess what? Their prompt caching is way better. Their strategy is way better because they learned that lesson, and they did it while they were still like early testing, and they didn't roll it out to all their users and find out that tons of users were costing them thousands of dollars. So prompt caching is important. All right.
All right. That's
and so what? Yeah. So
like,
we have one more.
Is all of this the same? All right. So this one's mine.
Yeah, you're back. You cut out for a second.
Oh, my bad, dude. All right. So next thing we're talking about is this article from Factory. If y'all don't know Factory, they have a popular coding tool. They also have the Droid. So like they're in this space. They're in the arena here. And so this is a really interesting concern right now for coding agents, and I think agents in general, but coding agents in particular, because Claude Code and Codex and now Factory have been doing something behind the scenes for large context windows. So before I get into this, like this whole article is about compression, context compression. But first, I want to say, like, what is that? So, as you know, if you're talking to an agent, every message back and forth is essentially represented in the conversation history, which then you, as a user, and for coding agents, you don't really have control of this directly, but what's happening in that thread is being fed into the context window, right? So that's the messages back and forth are now in the context window. What's in the context window could be system, like your system prompt, user messages, tool messages, and assistant messages, all are in there. Over time, this thing will get super big. Even Opus has like a 200K token limit, and some have 1 million, right? Like with Gemini and such. So like you will only go as big as your context window. And so many coding agents have implemented what's called context compression or compaction. And what that is it allows you to shrink down a long conversation. So like the history of the session can still fit in the context window. And the problem though is like, how do you do that compression in a way that what is left is still allows the agent to have good recall? What is recall? Recall is the ability to use your context window to remember things that are happening in the conversation. So this gets super important when you're building coding agents, because there might be feeding errors into the context window. You might be bringing documentation in to like help the agent write code better. So all these things happen. And so if you don't have good compression, you're going to forget in the coding agent context, you're going to forget what files have been edited or like what you're actually doing. And so maybe like over a long period of time, the agent forgets what the coding task was, and you kind of have to rejigger the context window. So Factory, what they're trying to do is like, have their own kind of compression algorithm, which essentially allows you to have really strict summaries. And then that gives the agent a jumping off point for understanding what was done in that context window. So it'll shrink all those messages into structured summaries. And then what they did was they open sourced a evaluation framework that allows you to test recall. And like, how do you measure quality from compression? Which is like, okay, like, does it actually remember what it has? Does it know what artifacts are in the context window? So if it generated files, it's aware of it. It knows where it is on the to-do list. If you all use like Claude, you'll see that there's a to-do list. It goes and it crosses it out. So it needs to remember what part of the to-do list is done and where to go next. So if your agent does not perform in these different areas because of context compression, that means the compression isn't good. And then last thing I'll say, Factory, what they do is they do like an iterative memory. So, you have a persistent store that is structured summaries of what has happened, whether it's files changed, decisions, etc. And instead, they don't like summarize the whole window, they just summarize the net new things. This is a very interesting approach to something that we'll be doing in the new year. So tune in there. OpenAI has compaction built in. You can actually do a compaction through the API, and it does compress memories pretty well, but the recall isn't that great. And then lastly, Anthropic does this by default, compaction or compression as well, but then they just generate it every time. And so some people notice that when you get to that compaction point in Claude, it starts forgetting stuff and not really doing that well. So yeah, Factory does say that they have the best accuracy for recall, best context awareness, best artifact tracking, and so they think they're best overall. I'm not going to switch my coding tool right now, but if people are using it, I would love to hear what they think. That's it.
Yeah. I think compaction, compression is an important topic, especially when you think about like just memory in general. I think all this stuff kind of ties together, right? We're talking about Letta and their coding agent, and theirs is memory first. This is like, they're saying one of their benefits is their compression, and how they handle compression makes it better. Obviously, if you've used Claude Code, compaction is an important time period. When you hit compaction, you know that your output typically suffers afterwards. And I know that Anthropic has been talking about their improved compaction as well, and like how they now they compact as they go rather than all at once. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things around this concept.
Yeah, and thankfully, this benchmark that the eval set is open source. So I guess memory providers can test these type of situations, as opposed to like other types of recall, like from long mem eval and stuff. So yeah.
All right, we have one more thing before we close out the show. This is kind of AI news related, but I wanted to just bring it up anyways, because it's I thought it was cool. Sometimes we do GitHub repo of the week, and I found one that I thought was kind of neat and maybe could deserve a few more GitHub stars. So we're going to do a little GitHub star party and talk a little bit about Jax.js, which is a machine learning library for the web in pure JavaScript. So maybe, just maybe, machine learning isn't just for Python devs. I think it still is. I don't think this changes it, but it is cool to see interesting tools that are, I guess, just being created for the JavaScript and TypeScript ecosystems. So if you want to join in on the star party, go to ekzhang/jax-js, give it a star. It doesn't have that many yet, but it's kind of cool. Allows you to do like some ML within, right directly in your web browser.
Yeah.
Uses
a web GPU.
Yeah, uses your web GPU. So, give it a shot. See what you think. You can also go to jax-js.com. If you do go over to GitHub and you're going to give this repo a star, find the Mastra-AI/Mastra repo and give that one a star too. We appreciate that.
I wonder how, people, we have TensorFlow.js, right? But no one ever, people used it, but it's not like something that people prescribe, let's say. And probably it is just dominated in the Python world. I'm curious if there will be a day where we have some web dev friendly ML tools that you could actually recommend someone to do like in production and things like that.
Yeah, like where's the day that it's good enough where someone says, what language do you know? Okay, JavaScript, TypeScript. Okay, use this tool, because I think for building agents, we've kind of passed that point. Where if you're going to build an agent today, if you came to me and you said, I'm a Python dev, I just know Python, I would not tell you to use Mastra.
Yeah, use Pydantic.
Pydantic, and there's others, right? But if you have a JavaScript background, you're a web dev, I would of course tell you to use Mastra. right?
Yeah.
I think there are good tools in different languages, and I wonder if ML will get to the point where there will be good enough tools in the JavaScript TypeScript ecosystem. I don't know that it's definitely not there, but maybe someday we can hope.
Yeah, it's happening. I mean, it's happening all over. Like you can write infrastructure as code in TypeScript now. Maybe this is another way.
TypeScript slowly eating the world,
Yes.
despite some people not wanting it to.
We'll have to invite Eric, I believe that's his name, on the show.
Yeah,
He
you
can
should
talk
come on the
about
show.
JackStratus.
Yeah, it would be cool to see, and actually like have him demo and show it off and show how it actually works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is the show. That's a pretty good show, I would say. Thank you all for tuning in to AI Agents Hour. It's been a good show. We talked about our skills, the new MCP. We covered all the AI news, talked about a bunch of different models, talked about GPT 5.2 codecs, the new image model, a whole bunch of new voice and image type models, a bunch of releases from different companies. We talked to Roche from Morning Brew, saw some demos of some master workflows, which is always cool to see, especially things that are in the wild. Make sure to check the stuff that he was talking about, library.fm, give that a check, and maybe build a story or two.
Yeah.
And Brad, thanks for watching. There's a lot of Simon says, I remember the day many years ago when somebody said to me, they'll never be able to make Photoshop in a browser. Yeah, now you got Figma.
Yeah. You'll be able to train models in the browser, dude.
Yeah, now you can train your own model in the browser. Yeah, exactly. We talked about prompt caching, how it works, a little bit more around like how LLMs work. We talked about compression, how that works, why it's important. And yeah, we do this every Monday. So please come on and visit us next Monday. Next Monday is going to be fun because we're going to do like the year-end review, and we're going to do our 2026 predictions. So if you are watching this and you have some predictions of your own, send them our way. Maybe we'll flag them on the show. We'll call them out. Tune in live. We do this Monday, noon Pacific time. Any parting words, Abby?
I'm so stoked for the prediction episode because we're gonna have some good takes that we will be able to reflect on as the year goes on next year. And I say we put some money down on some things.
All right, I'm gonna bring some cash. We're gonna make some bets, and
then
we
the fans,
will.
I hope you make polymarket stuff happen. Y'all do that.
Yeah, so we'll make some bets, and we will review this next year. Last year we were told in our Spotify Wrapped we're the top 20% podcast, so we're going to set the goal that we can do better. That's why we're bringing on a producer. If you missed the beginning of the show, that's the big announcement. That's a big Christmas present to everybody. You don't have to deal with me being the producer of this show and the last minute scrambling that sometimes happens. We're going to have a real professional come in here and try to right the ship. This thing goes off the rails all the time. We need someone to keep us in check. So we had to hire someone. But we're going to do that, and it's going to be a great show next week. I'm excited. I'm excited for the next year too. Do you want to see the new outro? You haven't seen the new outro
too? Oh, hell yeah. Let's do
it. All right,
Peace,
everyone.
y'all.
Have a good one. Go subscribe, like, do all the things. Please help us out. We'll see you next time. Later.
Enjoy the outro music.
Yeah. Yo, that show's a wrap. We were live in the zone. AI agents out with Shane and Abby on the throne. Did you give us that review? Only if it's a 5. Jump on the tube, make sure to like and subscribe. Yeah, news so fresh, yeah, we keep you in the loop. Get so fly, they bring the whole troop. AI on the rise, don't miss this power. Welcome to the show, it's AI Agents Hour. Did you just drop in? Is this your first time? Make sure to follow us on X and go like and subscribe. Yeah, learn the principles and patterns in our books. The master.ai site, give it a look. Yeah, news so fresh, yeah, we keep you in the loop. Get so fly, they bring the whole troop. AI on the rise, don't miss this power. Welcome to the show, it's AI Agents Hour. This is the end, we all wrapped up. Another showdown, another one coming up. AI Agents Hour's done, but the news doesn't cease. Shane and Abby, we out of here. Peace.